What's up, everyone? So I've taken a little bit of time off making videos, and it's just a good thing to take time off anything you're doing, in my opinion. It just gives perspective and a greater understanding of how you want to move forward. So I was going through some of my old astrology files that I've transferred from my old computer to my new one that I haven't looked at in a while, just trying to find some ideas for videos to do. And I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about predictive astrology. So I talk a lot on this channel about the birth chart, which, plain and simple, we all have one birth chart. It never changes. It's essentially the blueprint of our karma and our personality and essentially everything we are and have been. Um, in retrospect, the predictive astrology is how the transiting, so the continuously changing astrology, it's almost like the weather, right? The weather's always changing, planets are always moving, how that's affecting your unique birth chart setup. So, as I said, like everyone is born, for example, myself with the moon in Sagittarius at 21 degrees, sun in Pisces at 29 degrees. And in essence, if there's a transiting planet, so I'll get into some of the most important like types of predictive astrology, things that can really affect your current life. But if I had like Pluto, for example, that was transiting at either like right over my sun or in a 90-degree angle to my sun, right? Or opposite, 180-degree angle to my sun, that is really going to color my life for a long period of time. If it's one of the outer planets, right? One of the slower moving planets, Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, Pluto. And in essence, so these can really color every aspect of your life. Mainly, in my experience as an astrologer, it's really when it hits your sun and moon. Those are the biggest ones, but also it can be the same hitting Venus, especially Mars, Mercury too, and the ascendant, of course. So so what I'm trying to say in this video is that you have your birth chart, but if you have something astrological, something that is affecting you in your current astrology that can make you feel completely different or can color that period of time. So that's the reason that for my clients, like you get the birth chart done once, but then each year, if it's something you like or you want to do, you come back to me for the yearly astrology or the current yearly astrology, or annual astrology. So just a few things. So first of all, like I said, like when the transiting Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, Pluto are in a conjunction, which is when it's going over a square 90 degrees, or in opposition to natal moon, ascendant, and also midheaven, I should say too, and in some cases the other planets I mentioned. Also, a huge aspect of current astrology and how that can really make life seem different than usual is any Saturn return. So as many of you know, the first Saturn return everyone goes through around the age of 29 and a half. It's different per person based on what your natal Saturn is, and that really colors that period of life. That's why everyone goes through this kind of coming to terms with the reality. It's not always very nice when you turn 29. It's really like the evolution into adulthood, right? And also, there is, I don't have it exactly in front of me what occurs, but around 40, 41, 42, there's a midlife crisis that is really popular in pop culture, and that's actually when there is a lot of different things happening for everyone. So it's kind of like a Saturn return, but it's the Uranium opposition. So it's like an age where 3 or 4 outer planets are making this like a very critical aspect to each other. So Uranus goes halfway through your chart. Neptune, maybe it's is it a third? I should have looked that up. But essentially, that there's a reason for this midlife crisis is because there's so much that's going on astrologically at the same time in that span of a few years. So aside from that, there's also what's known as progressed planets. Now, I'm not going to explain the entire mechanism for this, but progressed planets essentially are a way of especially the progressed moon. So the moon astrology is very hard to use predictively because it moves so fast. It moves through the entire birth chart in one lunar cycle. So we use what's called the progressed moon it's almost like a compass. Like you can look at your progressed moon, it moves quite slowly, but not so slow that like it stays. Is it three and a half years in a house / sign? So it moves about 30 degrees every 3.5 years, and you can really have an idea of where kind of your emotional compass is, where you feel right in. Like the compass is a really good metaphor for that one. For example, and you can also compare it to your natal moon and your natal chart to really understand like if it's a time that feels where you'll feel more at ease or if it will be a lot different. I can use myself as an example. Just my chart in general now is completely colored by Capricorn and Saturn because I'm in my Saturn return. I have my progressed moon in Capricorn. My solar return had 6 planets in Capricorn. So Capricorn and Saturn they're similar, right? Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So it's no coincidence that this time feels a lot more restrictive. I mean, it's not, I can't complain, but Saturn creates hardships. It creates this feeling of boulders. I always say boulders in front of your path. Like you want to go forward, but there's this energy that somewhat pulls you back. So that's why it's really interesting and it can be very, very important for people to know about their current astrology, because you might be going through something really difficult through a really difficult time. Maybe it's affecting your relationships are feeling, affected, or you just don't feel balanced. You feel like you're emotionally kind of all over the place. You feel like you're not able to let loose and have fun. And all these can be attributed to different transits. Like if you have some really intense Saturn transits, that you might feel exactly like that. Like you're not as fun, like you're more held back, more reserved, more cold. And what you can do during that time is there's always remedies. So if you have a lot of Saturn transits, like I did a few years ago, and that was the time when I went out and read like a million books about astrology and just taught myself everything. Like I wasn't like going out and socializing and having as much fun. Like I had my close friends, but I was way less fun and animated than I typically am. But because I knew the astrology, I was able to use that time in a more productive manner instead. And I feel like if I didn't know about it, maybe it would have been a time where I might become quite depressed, feel like I was missing out on a lot. So that's one way which knowing your current astrology can really help you. And with transits of Pluto, it can feel, especially take your sun or moon, it can feel almost like there's this forced death to different parts of your being, like because Pluto represents death, rebirth, and transformation. It's related to Scorpio, and it can be really, really intense times where you feel like you're purging a lot, where you feel like you're really forced to let go. It can be a time, depending on the transit, where there's just a lot of darkness that's coming out. Maybe it's even with like opposition will bring sometimes situations in the external world that are dark, like people and I guess just situations and occurrences that are really, really intense and dark and kind of force you to change. So all in all, it's like by understanding it, it's not going to heal you and make you like just okay. Now that I know that I have like Saturn opposite my moon or Pluto square my sun, it's not going to make that go away, but just understanding that can make you feel a lot more like, okay, like I'm not going fucking crazy. I have this transit going on, and from knowing that can just bring so much healing, because you're in a situation now where you're like, okay, like I'm good. I've gotten past this to a large extent, and how much more to go. And it's a lot harder to go through life when you don't know about these, and after you know about it, when something intense happens, you can just attribute it to that transit, and it makes it a lot easier to go through. So the thing with current astrology is that there's so many transits that are going on. So if you like, one thing I try to do in my readings is I want my clients who aren't professional astrologers most of the time to leave, instead of like having like 40 or 50 like mini details, not really sure which one's more important. I really just want them to know the most important things going on. I want them to leave, because the human brain is not going to be able to hold that much information. You're going to, and maybe, a week or two moving forward, if I would have explained like a lot, like so many different transits and not pick the most important ones, maybe they'll all slip your mind. You'll lose sight of like what was really important. So I really tried to focus on that. And this document is basically a breakdown. It's like notes I was taking, but it's a breakdown of categories of current astrology and like what's the most important. So I have it broken down into 4 categories of like most important types of transits, progressions, and different aspects, and then 4 various categories of that. Also, another extremely important part, and I have a few more minutes here, of current astrology and all my readings is the solar return. So the solar return is like a new birth chart. It's a not birth chart. It's a new chart that's created for you each year. So you take your sun, right? Let's say in my case, 28 point like something like 4 or 5. I don't even know what it is. 28.45 Pisces, let's say, and for 49, I think 20.49 Pisces, and let's say that you create a new chart based on where you were around the time of your birthday, because it's usually either that day, the day before, the day after. And a new chart's made. So for me, I was in where I live, Cluj, Romania, and it's when the sun, the transiting sun, so the sun is going through obviously like the entire zodiac an entire year. It's when the transiting sun comes exactly back to 28 point whatever 49 Pisces from in Cluj-Napoca or wherever I was. And from that, a new chart's made, and you can denote so much information. It's really, really, really interesting to see how all of these different aspects of predictive astrology interplay, and they all tend to a lot of the time say the same thing, just like the birth chart readings do, and point to key themes. And it's always just really, really interesting to see how astrology has this way of doing that. It amazes me each time I do a reading, especially the birth chart ones. So anyways, I hope this made sense to people. If you leave with anything, it's the fact that you might know this about your birth chart, but if you don't understand the current astrology, then you might feel completely different to how you're used to feeling. And it's really important to just know about those aspects. So besides that, let me know what you think in the comments, if there's any questions you have, and maybe if anyone is aware of the current astrology or different trends they've had, you can let me know like what some of the most difficult, challenging aspects you've had were. For me, I definitely think Chiron. I didn't mention Chiron. Chiron was conjunct my sun in Pisces last year, 2 years ago, and that was extremely challenging because it went back and forth over it 5 times. And also I had a year where I had 4 or 5 Saturn transits in a row. It hit my moon, my sun, my Jupiter, my Mercury. I think that's it. Maybe something else too. Maybe my ascendant or something. So that was really, really, really tough. So yeah, that's about it. Let me know in the comments about your experiences of that type. And also I am doing readings. I still have way reduced prices. If you look at my website in the bio, you'll see that I've cut my prices by a lot. I'm kind of over I'm not doing this for money, so I've tried to make it a lot more affordable, but also to the point where I don't feel like I'm undervaluing myself, because a lot of astrologers that I would imagine are not much better or even better at all than me charge tons. So anyways, yeah, I look forward to hearing back from you guys. Hope everyone's doing well, and I'll talk to you guys later.